Hello everyone and welcome to Action RPG Build Guide Edition. Today I'm ready to drop on you my new and enhanced Leap Quake Barbarian for Diablo 4. This thing is an absolute monster and it is so much fun to play. As always, I will cover every single facet of the build. Everything is timestamped in the description below if you need to bounce around. Let's not waste any time and jump right into this. Starting off with some gameplay. Now right now we are in a Nightmare Dungeon 100, which is obviously the hardest, and the skills we are using are Leap, Ground Stomp, War Cry, Call of the Ancients, Power Kick, and Lunge. Now, every time you leap, you are going to make an earthquake, and when you are standing in your earthquake, you are going to do huge damage, and you could reset leap all the time. So let me explain. When you leap, it'll be on cooldown. You can then ground stomp and leap again. You can then power kick and leap again. You can then power kick and leap again, and then restart that cycle. On top of that, if you leap and don't hit an enemy, it's going to lower the cooldown. If you leap and hit multiple enemies, it is going to lower the cooldown. When you can see during this gameplay, I can pretty much leap at will. The only times you'll have fully everything on cooldown is during boss fights, and during that time, you are just tearing up the boss with Lunge, which is going to give you Leech and continue to give you Berserking, so you can reset the cycle. And when you are standing in multiple earthquakes, and have your War Cry going and all your bonuses up, your combat rating, your combat power will be close to 400,000. In the pit on a level 50 boss, I power kicked one of these times and it took half of its life away. It is an absolute monster. This is a perfect example of all these enemies. We are just eating them up with Earthquake. What's great about this build too is we're also using Call of the Ancients, and we're using the new unique pants, which is going to make our Ancients empowered, so they are so much stronger. And Ground Stomp allows you to reset your Ancients, or it brings down the cooldown on them. And if you get lucky with some tempering as well, you can have Call of the Ancients up almost the entire time if you really focus on it that way. We have 9,200 armor. We have all of our resistances almost maxed. We've got 35,000 life. We are a pretty tanky barbarian here in our Nightmare Dungeon. So that's the gameplay loop. Pretty simple. Leap, hit, stomp, reset it, power kick, and you could just keep doing this over and over again. Leap was my favorite skill in Diablo 3. That was a set I always used, and I've always wanted to create this in Diablo 4. And it feels really good. So far, the highest we have cleared on the pit is level 60, and we cruise through Nightmare Dungeon 100s. And the gear can obviously be so much better. Let me show you a couple boss fights. First boss I want to showcase is the Outlaw Sharpshooter, one of the hardest fights for us in the pit because they're always disappearing and moving outside of the earthquake. But this is a pit level 50, so a pit boss 149. And watch when we call in Ancients. Look at the life. Damn! Get out of the poison. Again, pit level 50 boss with Leap Quake. Come on. So this example of everything is now on cooldown. Just tear them up. Earthquake, ground stomp. Pop back up, hit them with Ancients, and game time. Come on, there you are. And Ancients take them down. All right, so that's a pit level 50. Let me show you that Nightmare Dungeon level 100 boss. One of the hardest Nightmare Dungeon boss fights. They're all three 154. Look at their life. Grand Inquisitor, done. All we got left is the Lord Commander. This fight can also be tough. But as you can see, Leap Quake, no problem. Huge amounts of life coming off. Stop blinding me. Hit him with Ancients. And you, Lord Commander, are... dead. Let me show you how to recreate this build. So now let's check out the skill tree, starting with our first skill, Lunging Strike, which is going to help heal you when you are in combat and help when you critical strike to give you Berserking. You're then going to come down here and put 3 points into Endless Fury, which is going to help you with Fury generation, so you get big buildups for your power kick. You also have to put the 3 points here because we are not using any core skills. This is going to take you to Ground Stomp, and you want to take Strategic Ground Stomp, which is going to lower your ultimate based upon enemies hit, so you can keep your Ancients up more often. And again, remember that Ground Stomp is going to reset Leap, so you can jump again. We have 3 points into Imposing Presence for maximum life and Vigor, which is going to help you with damage reduction against elites. You're then going to come down here to your Brawling skills, which we really like. We have 1 point into Kick and 1 into Power Kick, 1 point into Warcry, and 1 point into Mighty Warcry. Again, this point here, if you want to go more damage, you go Power Warcry. If you want more survivability, you take Mighty. In this case, we want Mighty. And since you have a Shout, you want 3 into Voice, so you can keep that multiplicative damage for longer. And you want Gutter Yell, which is going to make it where enemies deal less damage to you. Again, kind of a damage reduction stat. And then our main skill, Leap, we're actually only putting 1 point in. The Leap's damage we don't really care about. What we care about is the Earthquake that it leaves behind. So really all you'd be doing is putting points into here to lower the cooldown reduction, which is good, but they can be better used somewhere else. And on here you want Mighty Leap, so enemies are always slowed. You then have 3 into Aggressive Resistance for more damage reduction, and 3 into Battle Fervor, which is going to make it where anytime you hit an enemy with Combat Kick or Leap, you are going to gain Berserking. So Berserking from Kick, Berserking from Leap, and Berserking from right here, Combat Lunging Strike. You're then going to come down 3 into Pit Fighter and 3 into No Mercy. Since enemies are slowed from your Leap, No Mercy is going to trigger that 9% critical strike chance. You're then going to come over here, 3 into Thick Skin, 3 into Counteroffensive, and 3 into Defensive Stance. I am telling you, some of the toughest enemies in the game, you could just stand there and take the hits. For our ultimate, we are using Call of the Ancients. And then we have 3 into Heavy-Handed because for this build, we are using 2-handed slashing. And our final point right here goes into Unconstrained, which increases Berserking's maximum duration and gives you 100x multiplicative damage. So you're going to be berserking all the time, so you're going to have this up almost all the time. Now, when we're looking actually at our skills, Lunging Strike, you want to set it to slashing. And then on Leap, you want to set it to slashing. That way you are getting the benefits of holding a 2-handed weapon. None of the other skills we are using, you actually set the weapon for. So just remember, slashing. Moving over to our weapon expertise, and you guessed it, it's still the best. Don't change it. 2-handed axe expertise, which is just going to give you a flat 10% multiplicative damage to vulnerable enemies. Now let's talk Paragon board, and just know that my Barbarian, our Leap Quaker, is level 100. This is our starting board, and I'll go through them one at a time, give you a chance to screenshot. And on here, we are taking Exploit. For Barbarian, it is tough to make enemies vulnerable, so you want to get Exploit as soon as possible. For board number 2, what we have here is Warbringer, and the glyph that we are using is Rumble, 515% to Earthquake damage. Moving on to board number 3. On here, we are using Carnage, and the glyph that we are using is Ire. And there's a lot going on board number 3. You've got some damage while berserking, you've got some resistances, you've got damage while berserking, and then we are actually taking Carnage where while berserking critical strikes increase attack speed. For board number 4, we're actually going to go up right here. And what we are using is Blood Rage, which at time of recording, it's a 19% multiplicative damage. And the glyph that we are using is Undaunted. We are then going to move straight down to board number 5. And this board is Weapons Master. And the glyph that we are using is Territorial. Board number 6 is here to the left. We are using Decimator, which is the final point you will put in. And then for the glyph, we are using Might. That is the Paragon boards. So now let's break down our gear, starting with uniques. And I want to be clear right off the bat, no uniques are required for this build. You can have none of them and it would still function the exact same. That being said, I do think there are 2 items that are best in slot. First are Aerith's Bearings, and what this is a newer unique that basically summons empowered ancients, which you're going to be using all the time. So they're going to be making earthquakes, dust devils, and igniting the ground around you, and it does a ton of damage. It also has a lot of useful stats: strength, max life, damage reduction, and ultimate cooldown. The other one, of course, is our Tusk Helm, which is a fan favorite for pretty much all Barbarian builds. Now, this is not required, and the one I have is literally bottom rolled. Currently, I'm not even using it. I am using Undying, but this is technically best in slot if you have a decent one and it is master crafted well. So Undying for your helmet, or you want to use a Tusk Helm. Now, for the rest of our items, we are using Might for our chest. On our gloves, we are using Hectic. For our boots, very important, you're using Stomping, which damaging an enemy with kick or ground stomp resets Leap's cooldown, and we use both. This allows you to kick, or this allows you to leap 3 extra times. For our amulet, we are using Bolcathos, which is Leap creates Earthquake. For our second ring, we're using Ring of the Giant Strides, which reduces the cooldown of Leap up to 9 seconds. And then for our second ring, we're using Bear, which killing an enemy while berserking has a 40% chance to gain 32% increased cooldown reduction to your brawling skills. That way you can use Warcry, you can use Power Kick, and you can use Leap more often. Now, looking at our weapons, we are using Edge Masters for 40% multiplicative. And on our other two-handed, we're using Ground Stomp creates an Earthquake. So every time you ground stomp, you're also going to make an earthquake. And when you are standing in said earthquake, 50% multiplicative damage. Absolutely huge. For our other 2 weapons, we are using Rapid for basic attack speed. And right here, we're using Bearded Axe of the Elements, which every 7 seconds as it switches, you're going to get a huge boost to your damage. You can also use Magnum Opus if you want for one of these slots. It is also a good weapon if you find one that is rolled correctly. Now, when it comes to gems, on our armors, we want rubies, which of course is going to boost your life. On our weapons, we want emeralds, which is going to give us critical strike damage. And then for your accessories, your amulet and your rings, you're just going to take whatever you need to get your resistances higher. So right now I still don't have mine maxed. Armor is maxed at 85% reduction, and then fire, cold, and poison are at 70, but I need a little bit of work on shadow resistance and lightning resistance, and I'm hoping some master crafting, a little bit of tinkering, we can get those to 70%. But all in all, as you see, just standing in town, 71,000 attack power, 9,200 armor, 38,000 life, solid resistances, and then again, this 71 jumps to 93,000 once you're out of town and you have the elemental ring around you that is physical. Very strong. All right, everyone, that's the build guide. What do you think of my new and enhanced Leap Quake? Is there anything I missed? Is there anything I can do to take this to the next level? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. 2 asks at the end of the video. Ask number 1, I'm hoping today is the day I have earned your subscription. I'm hoping today is the day you make the decision to push that little red button. I would really appreciate it, but of course, only if you think I've earned it. And if I haven't earned it, I'm going to work harder for you. Ask number 2, check out my Patreon. It really is the best way to support into the future. You get access to the VIP lounge, you get access to game night, movie night, all the exclusive content. It is the best way to support into the future. First link in the description. I'm done. Hopefully you were entertained or at least learned something. Aaron, out.